Right. I want to talk about fear today and not the dramatic horror movie kind, but the quiet, everyday kind that just sneaks into your parenting, your decisions, your body, and it just kind of sets up camp. Sometimes it feels like discomfort. And we've been taught to treat discomfort like danger. And it's kind of wrecking us. Fear can feel like it is literally the loudest voice in the room. And I'm talking fear of messing up, fear of not being enough, fear of failing your kids in ways that you won't realize until they're adults and in therapy and talking shit about you, which same fear, honestly. No, I have basically come to terms with that. And fear doesn't usually kick the door down and announce itself either. It slides in nice and quiet as overthinking and control, staying busy, pulling back, as something feels off. I should probably fix this like yesterday. And then we assume that if we feel uncomfortable, that something must be wrong. But recently, I was in church and we were discussing fear, which was totally aligned. And a couple of the questions that were brought up were what happens when belonging comes before fear, and where does fear actually belong? Because maybe fear isn't bad. Maybe it's just not meant to be in charge.
Welcome back to The Reclaimed Woman, where reclaiming your peace, connection, and honestly, your life is our favorite topic. I'm Jess, mom, cycle breaker, certified family life coach, and this is for the moms doing two bold ass things at once: parenting their kids and reparenting themselves, because that is like a lot. Around here, we talk real life parenting, but we also talk about what's underneath it: the nervous system stuff, triggers, boundaries, repair, and how to build self trust when you've been running on survival mode for years. And just so we're clear, this is a compassion over judgment zone. We can hold nuance. We can tell the truth without demonizing people. We can understand patterns and know that everyone has a story and everyone survives in a different way without excusing the harm that may have been done. Safety always comes first here. So if that sounds like the kind of community that you've been needing and the kind of support you're looking for, hit follow. I would be happy to grow alongside you.
So here's the thing, fear exists for a reason. All of our emotions exist for a reason. Fear specifically is part of your brain's alarm system. It's fast, it's protective, and it is not particularly nuanced. Here's a quick science moment because I am like a little neuroscience nerd, but I'll keep it real. Research shows that fear responses come from the amygdala, the part of your brain that reacts before you actually have time to think logically. So it's like the deep down, it's like the downstairs brain. So before you get any context, fear is already there. Before clarity, before you can say, is this actually dangerous? Or assess any situations, fear is there. Which means when fear hits, it's not because you're failing or you've done something wrong, but because your brain is just aggressively doing what it was designed to do. But one of the things that we discussed is that fear was really never meant to be our landing pad. It was never meant to be home. It's a signal, a messenger, a knock at the door. It's data. We need data to make choices, to make decisions. But when fear becomes a place you live from or parent from, everything feels urgent, everything feels heavy, and everything feels really fragile. And this is especially true if you have trauma or anxiety, depression, or just a spicy nervous system. Belonging can feel really far away. So then naturally, fear steps in and tries to fill that role, and it freaking sucks at it. It is not a good friend. One of the things he said was before fear was fellowship and before panic was presence. And I was like, it's just like when we were born, children, right? Before your body learned to brace itself, there was connection. Before you learned to scan everything for danger, there was a relationship. Before you learned to worry about getting things wrong or messing it up, there was a desire to belong to the people around you. And here's the part that really matters. It's very, very often not the first story. It's the response to something that felt unsafe, inconsistent, or conditional, which lines up with what we know from attachment research. Humans are literally wired for connection before any kind of threat awareness. Babies literally regulate through presence long, long before they understand any kind of danger. Connection literally comes first in our design. Fear gets loud when that connection or that belonging feels unstable or like it's not safe anymore. And the real icing on the cake is that parenting gives fear a full time job and it allows for overtime. The fear that you're not doing enough, that you're doing too much, that you're not feeding them the right stuff or managing everything perfectly, that your kids' struggles are your fault somehow, and that your reactions are just permanently screwing them up forever and ever and ever. And fear is so, so sneaky. It disguises itself as responsibility. And so it's like, if you don't worry about this, you just don't care. If you don't stay on edge and make sure you have it all figured out, you're going to miss something really important. And then what? Or if you relax and take a beat, everything around you is just going to fall apart. And notice those absolutes in there. Everything, always, never. It loves, loves absolutes. But here's what the research actually shows: chronic fear based parenting increases stress hormones in both the parent and the child without, yes, I said without improving outcomes. So, what actually predicts secure attachment and resilience? Presence. Yeah, it's presence and emotional attunement and repair. Fear doesn't make you a better parent. Worrying all the time doesn't make you a better parent. Presence does, and belonging does. I don't know about you, but that feels like a breath of fresh air because that just means that I don't need to give myself all that pressure. I don't need to feel like I'm running on empty all the time. I'm like, damn, all I got to do is show up. What? It's so true. All you have to do, like the bar is actually really low. Just show up. Just be there, do your best, be willing to repair and apologize, and shit, like, that makes you phenomenon, okay? Phenomenon. Another thing I thought of when I was listening to this was that fear really likes to disguise itself as discomfort. Discomfort setting boundaries, letting your kids struggle. What? Being seen as imperfect or like feeling uncomfortable because somebody might judge you or discomfort of not fixing everything immediately. And then we treat our discomfort like it's a five-alarm fire, right? We're like, oh my God, this is uncomfortable. I cannot do this. It feels so big and so consuming that we shut down or run or whatever our phrase response is, right? But discomfort is not danger. It's just how we've been conditioned to think of it, right? And the psychology totally backs this up. Distress tolerance research shows that discomfort signals growth or novelty, not a threat. So when people learn to stay with that discomfort and be able to sit with it, emotional regulation and confidence increase. So it's like, why run from it? It feels hard, right? But like, if you just stay in it, if I just stay right here, gosh, I'm going to feel so much better at the end of it. Just stay in it. Easier said than done, right? But here's the thing: discomfort usually means that you're doing something new or breaking a pattern, choosing presence over protection. It signals that you are in growth mode, which is amazing, knowing that you're going to come out on the other side better for it. So it's not a problem. It's literally just your practice. It is your practice to just be there and be uncomfortable and know that it sucks, but also know this is good. It's good that I'm uncomfortable. Hell yeah. Hype it up. So it got me thinking. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about the questions of intent, like in communication. And I have been taught on asking if your fear, like when you think of a scenario, asking if it's true. But this feels so much more practical. Instead of asking, is it true? Ask your fear what the intent is. I think of like Inside Out. Like, I have little characters in my body that are playing their roles, and sometimes I just need to talk them down, right? I think of it like that. Like, if I'm fearful, if I'm uncomfortable, asking myself, what is the intent of this feeling instead of is it true? Because you could ask if the story's true, but what is coming up? The feeling, it may not be true yet, but it could be a real possibility, right? So then our body's like, well, yeah, it's true. It could happen. So if we ask what the intent is, that leads us into more questions that are like, what is this fear trying to protect me from? Or what does it want me to do right now? What will it cost me if I let my fear lead? Is it actually danger, or am I just uncomfortable and having trouble pushing through? Fear always has an intent. When you can ask what the intent is, then you can see where it's trying to lead you. It works because, quick science again, naming and questioning emotions reduces fear activation in the brain and brings your thinking brain back online. So, if you've ever heard this term, name it to tame it, it's basically just that. More you allow space for your fear to be heard and talked through, the quicker your brain will come out of that survival state, your default response. It will move through that much easier and with more grace and more compassion. Essentially, curiosity calms that fear because you're not dismissing it, you're listening to it, allowing it to be, and then relocating it where it belongs. It gets a seat at the table, but it does not sit at the head of the table. It just sits there and gives you information.
If you're doing all of the healing work, but somehow you're still snapping at the same damn moments, and then you're like, cool, cool, cool. I guess I will just apologize again and feel like shit. I know where you're at. The repeat trigger playbook exists for that exact gap, the space between intention and reaction, not to fix you, but to help you slow down the moment so that you can actually choose differently. If you are done beating yourself up and ready to break the pattern instead, it's linked in the show notes.
And if we circle back to the whole idea of connection and belonging coming before fear, I think it's important to note that belonging doesn't mean that everything is like hunky dory and sunshine and daisies, right? It does mean that you're not alone in the hard stuff. It means that because you belong and you feel like you belong, you don't have your worth on the line every time you make a mistake. You don't have to earn your place or feel like you have to work so hard to find a spot. Belonging just allows you to be and relax a little bit. It literally lowers fear responses in our nervous system. It changes how our bodies experience threat, and I think that is so fascinating that literally just having people around us who care about us, who hold us up, that help us feel like we belong, just having that physically helps our body. When our connections come first, even if it's internally, even if it's just with ourselves, fear can settle into its proper place because it feels seen, it feels heard, and then it can just give you information. It's not going to consume your identity. So fear has a place. It belongs as data and signals, something to listen to, not something we have to obey. It's not your home. Belonging and presence and connection, that's your home. That's your home. And when belonging and connection come before fear, fear doesn't go away, unfortunately, but it stops running the show. So if it's been so loud for you lately, give yourself some grace and some compassion because it doesn't mean you're broken. Your body's just doing what it's supposed to do, and your fear is just working a little overtime trying to problem solve. We just got to remind it that it can take a break. They can rest over there. You're learning to come home to yourself, to your presence, to your people, to your belonging. And that is intense and beautiful work. If no one has told you lately, I am so freaking proud of you. I'm proud of you for being here, for doing the work, and for being intentional to the best of your ability. I'm so proud of you.
Alrighty, friend. If this episode hit, helped, or made you feel a little bit less like a hot mess doing this all by yourself, I'd love it if you would take a second and leave a review. It helps this show reach all the moms who are still sitting here thinking, is this just me? Am I freaking crazy? Because that's really the whole point. And if something came up for you, questions, thoughts, or a topic you would love for me to talk about, come tell me. You can message me or use the link in the show notes to share what's on your mind. This show is shaped by real stuff that you're living, not just what sounds good on a content calendar. All right, take a deep breath, take what you need, and leave the rest. And I hope you have a stellar week.